Hello, everyone. I'm Ronan Unchained, and we're here to talk about. I am your host for Commandos Chat number one, the first live stream talking about Creature Commandos on a weekly basis. Hopefully, guarding that nothing happens prior to an episode dropping. But I knew that if I'm going to talk about the first new project of the DCU, I need a fellow DC fan and someone who's been in the trenches since the CW days and probably before that. Daren, how are you, my friend?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh, I'm big now. Hello. This, you know what? Today has been a special day
Yeah.
because obviously we're here to talk about Creature Commandos, but it really did feel like a really special experience having obviously Superman trailer drop today. We've been waiting for that for a long time. Creature Commandos, episode 4, which was kind of like the big episode from like everyone that I heard who had already kind of seen the show.
Yeah.
So no, it was really cool. Like it was a feeling like, oh, this universe has officially started. We've waited what is now a year and a half, almost 2 years to kind of get this ball rolling, and we're here. It's really exciting.
Yeah. I to think that we've been waiting this since the announcement of like, okay, James has signed on. This is the first project. Everybody's going, what? Really? This is what we're going to start off with? And then 4 episodes in, and people are like, oh snap! Okay, for the most part, I care about these monsters and whatnot, and
Yeah.
I like that they're sassy, and I like that there are quirks to them and whatnot. But yeah, and for those who don't know, we are going to be talking spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, go watch it as soon as possible, and then come back and hang out with us if you haven't. But I was, fortunate enough to see this episode a while back. And if you want to see me freaking out, go watch it on the channel. Why not? With Samuel again from Team JVS. But I have been biting my tongue for my friends to catch up and be like, okay, what did you think of this episode? Because I have my own thoughts. Darren, yes, Superman came out today, and we'll talk about that later. But this episode drops. You've been hearing rumblings about like, ooh, episode 4, episode 4. You finished the episode, and what did you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just finished it. I'm not even kidding, probably like 20 minutes ago. It's very fresh in my mind. And again, like this was the episode I was very curious about. Obviously, after episode 1, they dropped that like this season on Creature Commandos. I saw those screenshots. I saw those like flash forward photos, and I was like, okay, let's see where this goes, because it's a big thing to your first project in the like DCU to show, let's be honest, dead characters of like some of the most iconic characters of all time before even seeing before even meeting these guys.
Yeah.
And I think it's really funny, again, not to mention the Superman trailer, but to have the Superman trailer here being like, oh, it's a new start, and then on Creature Commandos is like, no, he's dead. Deal with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. But no, I think this episode for me, I think it's starting to really find its groove, to find its movement. I think the first 3 for me, I was kind of at a placement of like, this is pretty good. Like, this is a pretty good show. I don't love it, but I'm enjoying it. And I think this episode, was able to kind of really, and I think it's because we're really finally starting to get into the groove of these characters. I think they, with these episodes being so short, they haven't had a lot of time to, I guess, develop them to the point I maybe would have wanted to. And I think this week we're like, okay, I'm getting, the Frankenstein's bride and, Nina and all these characters. I'm starting to get the hang of a little bit more. And yeah, and again, like what I assume we're going to talk about the flash forward stuff in a minute, but it's like, I am curious where that stuff is going to go. Like, what is the trajectory of some of those storylines, and what direction are we going with some of those guys?
Yeah, to me, what was unique in the starting was like, okay, Flag and Alana are back at it again, and she keeps wanting to keep them. And I love that. Why don't you just kill her? Why don't you just kill? Bam, kill her one night. And it's like, no, that's not how we do in America. And I love, again, it's it's James saying, I don't know about this, but saying we don't do this in America, and then she being like, I don't know, the internet says different, and he's like, well, we shouldn't be doing it that way.
Yeah.
Cut to the credits, and instantly the Commandos are back in base, and somebody's waiting for Weasel, but at the same time, Stalker is just following his high school crush, and it's again, it's weird, but it's effed up at the same time. Where you're like, dude, what the hell? The envy this fool has, and I just love that. Yes, again, valid criticism. Like the episodes are too short, but man, when we're focused on a character and whatnot, we are focused.
Yeah,
and taking everything in from perception to subtlety to bombastic thoughts, inner thoughts, and I love that. At this point now, there's a lot of love couples or non quote unquote not couples in Commandos. How are you feeling about the dynamics between Alana and Flag and Edward and the bride?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the whole Flag and kind of like that relationship, I think has been really fun. Very jarring, like episode 1, episode 2. Like I was not expecting that in the lead. Like I do a show on Tuesdays where I talk about all the TV throughout the week, and like I was like, if I was to describe this show as one thing, I would say it's very horny. It's a very horny show.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've been really fun. I feel like from episode 1 though, there's been this like suspicion about her, like, to the point where like, is she Clayface? Like what's going on there? There was such a focus on her early on. I feel like that's a trope in TV where it's like, oh, the super hot character that the main character falls in love with happens to be a bad guy. Like it's very tropey. But I think it's been fun. I think it's a good way to kind of like, I think, relate to Flag a little bit, because so far he's very stoic, he's very kind of closed off, and I think that is kind of their way of like sympathizing with him a little bit. It was like, he has a heart, he's falling for this girl, and blah blah blah. And again, I'm curious to kind of see where that develops, because obviously there's now a conflict with this where it's like, oh, like episode 1 we're like, hey, we can't do this, is like a conflict of interest, I can't do this, and now we're seeing the consequences of that. Now he's attached, he can't do his job properly. Waller knows that. So I think that's been really fun. And then the Frankenstein stuff, you know what? It's so conflicting, because obviously terrible guy, stalker, like doing horrible things, but David Harbour is so good, and he is so much fun. And that whole scene with Flag and him and like in his house, and there's like, have you seen the Titanic? Not many people have. And it was like, I love this man. I know I can't love this man because he's like a serial killer, stalker, creep, but I'm so excited to see, I assume, David Harbour play this character in live action someday. Like, that's going to be so much fun. Yeah. And I don't know where this team up is going to go. I can't imagine anywhere good. I'm really excited though to see kind of where this silly dynamic will go in the future.
Yeah, man. And folks, I know in the episodes they cut back and forth between storylines, but I want us to like focus on a part of the storyline, and then we'll shift to another one in that regard. But yeah, to me, I couldn't stop laughing every time these two were in a room together, and just his laughing, and just and him crying and be like, you know what I'm talking about, you Dilfy son of a bitch, and then like, what the fuck? And yeah, man, his pop culture references, like Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Now I'm regarding who between you and him is king of the world. It's like Leo, and I love the.
Yeah.
And then the when Harry Met Sally, have you seen that movie? And it's just like, what the fuck is going on? I really kept saying, what the fuck's going on? And just Sam being like, it's James Gunn. And I'm like, cool, all right, awesome.
I think it makes a lot of sense though, where it's like him being a character that's been around for, what so many years. He like, it feels like he has a love for life and a love for like media, and it makes sense to him. Like, movies are still this kind of new age kind of thing. Like, he didn't have movies at first, so he probably is fascinated with just the idea of film, and also like, I think romance, like film is so connected to romance. And I actually think that's a very interesting part of his character, where it's like, in his mind, he is just like, he's this sad old guy that just can't get his way, and he's like, well, she feels the same about me, she's just playing hard to get. And it's like, no, man, you fundamentally misunderstand what's happening. Like, I feel like there needs to be. I feel like we need a therapist to get involved and be
Intervention,
like, yeah, like, no, that's not what's happening.
It's and again, in a way, this is the intervention that he's finally having with him, and like I love that even Flag was like, dude, I'm gonna blow your head off. Please don't make me do this. Let me just put me down and we'll talk. And yeah,
Right.
I can't wait for people to see where this quote unquote bromance goes onwards with the series. But at the same time that this is going on, they get the witch, they get Cersei doing her thing. She's got a little skin condition now because of Dr. Phosphorus. And Waller, I'm fascinated to see her taking up this idea like, what do you mean you weren't, this wasn't just malice and whatnot? There's a reason why you attacked the princess and whatnot. And Waller's willingness to like, okay, I'll play ball. I'll see what this is about.
Yeah.
And then we get the boom, we get the flash vision, if you will, and you're seeing all these images. And again, oh, there's a monkey, oh, there's a gorilla, oh snap, there we go. And then it just cuts to boom, 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 boom. But again, folks, ironic, and that's why I was just like, I don't think people realize what's gonna happen today if you're a Superman fan. I couldn't believe it. That they decided to go down this route this early on in the DCU, showing us an image like this. And like, if you think about it, this is generally the first time we see all of these characters in the DCU, and we see them like this.
Yep.
So you hear Cersei's point of view of like why she's doing what she's doing. She sends Waller on a mushroom experience. Waller is taken aback and like shocked. And again, for folks who don't know, that takes a lot to shock Amanda Waller and to put in that way of like, what the hell? I don't know what I just experienced, but it felt legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what did you think of it? Because folks, you can see me freaking out. I want to see what Daren thought of his experience taking in the sequence.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, it was very. It was a little unfortunate. Like, I wish they wouldn't have put those shots in that trailer at the beginning of the season, because I was like, yeah, okay, I'll be curious to see. We kind of already saw a bit of that. I saw those before I even saw like the first episode. I was like, what the heck is happening here? But no, like what I really liked about this episode, I think Waller was one of my favorite parts, because it's like, Waller, obviously, not always the most likable character. She's a character that will do literally anything to save the world. Like, she'll kill a city of people if it means the whole world is safe. So I think, her actually seeing that she failed her job, that like she failed to protect the world, in this mission. Not only that, she is fighting potentially on like the wrong side. Be like, oh my gosh, I'm actually fighting to destroy the world in this scenario, and her kind of switch up. And she was afraid. Like, we don't see Waller afraid rarely ever in any media. Like, it's very rare. Like, she'll stand toe to toe with people with Lex Luthor and Batman, and then so this scaring her, I think, leaves a huge impact. I will say, and again, I'm not like a negative person, I am not a huge fan of this being like the first introduction or like the first things for a lot of these characters. Again, I need to see where it goes. I need to kind of see the end goal, if that's this show or if it's a something along the lines or whatever this is going. Maybe I'll change my mind by the end. But it's like, okay, yeah, and you know what? Like, it's I've also kind of had my criticisms about like this being the first one, if it should or if it shouldn't or whatever. I've had those discussions elsewhere as well. But no, like, it's definitely still cool to be able to see like, okay, like, regardless, and I know we're not talking Superman, but like, regardless, it is cool that and again, I have like mixed feelings there. I think there are just some negatives, some positives about this, but it's so cool that we are living in a lived-in DC world. Like, we don't have to start from square zero where like, okay, we don't have Wonder Woman, we don't have blah blah, we don't have blah blah blah. We live in a world. We had a scene in a DC project with Grodd, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Peacemaker, all in one giant shot. Like that, like 3 years ago, I would have been like, you're lying to me. Like, CW definitely wouldn't have allowed that. But like DC EU definitely would not have been able to do that. Like, I can't believe we're seeing that on our screens. That is very fun. it definitely like has that like conversation value to it, where I love in a good TV show where it gets you talking, get you theorizing, get you sparking this conversation. Again, it's a shame it came out the same day as Superman, or the Superman trailer is again also a shame they put that out early, because I think that would have a much bigger impact for watching. We're like, oh my gosh, what? Like, why are they dead? How are they dead? All of those things. But yeah, no, I'm very excited to kind of see where where that goes.
Even James Gunn recently, like, I don't want the teaser to shadow what we did with Commandos and whatnot. Like, he's been putting it right now on threads, on Twitter, and so that's why I've been like, we're talking about it. When there's a stream that's dedicated to Commandos, come hang out with us if you want to talk about Commandos. And that is totally valid, because I was shocked and I was like, oh, that's so cool. But I'm like, but damn, that's the first way we're gonna see so and so and so and so and so and so, and definitely that's so and so. So that project is probably is greenlit. And it's fascinating to take in this stuff, but I like that regardless if we're mixed on or not, you feel like there's a commitment with these shots, and the commitment of what we're going to tell between those visuals, whether we wrap it up or not in this series. I love that you could feel there's a commitment. Oh, we're going to answer that. We're going to get through this regardless in this series or onwards. And hence it's the echoes of what James said. This is chapter 1, gods and monsters. And so I like that we're emphasizing and staying true to that idea and that goal of like this chapter. We're sticking to it. We've been honoring that commitment since episode 1 and 2. So
no, I love just like these first several projects within the like DCU. If it's going to succeed, if we think it's the best move, I love how ballsy he's been so far. Like, I love how he's so committed to just telling these stories that he think are going to be good stories. Again, I could sit here and say, I don't think Creature Commander should be the first project. I also have to give him the respect for having that much love for these guys to be like, no, I think these guys, again, I have my criticisms with it, but like he thinks that these guys are good enough to launch his entire universe. We can look at the Superman trailer again. I'm sorry, I'm going back to it, but like you have like Metamorpho, and you have Hawker, and you have Mr. Terrific, and you have these characters where it's like, these are the guys you want to start your first like DCU movie with? Hell yeah, man. I respect that. He doesn't feel like he recently said that he was like super stressed about if that movie's gonna do well or not, and I really needed to do well. But like, he's not letting that get in the way of just telling the story he wants to tell. And I think that's lacking in a lot of Hollywood. Like, I think it's always like, okay, what's going to make the most money? Okay, what's going to, succeed us in the long run? I think, again, not to say he's not, like, I think he's going to do whatever he can to make this, like, succeed. But it's really cool to see, I think.
And it doesn't feel like, again, we could be wrong, but he is at the head of the studio, but on the creative side, it doesn't feel committee-based. It feels like there's a nerd with a specific point of view and favorite list, and he's diving deep into it with us, which goes to this character, which I freaked out a little bit internally. I didn't want to get my hopes up, but I was like, Daren, is this Diana? Is this? And then they quickly, they're like, no, it's the doctor who she's very engaged in Themyscira knowledge and whatnot. But I was just like, and I'm like, y'all went out of your way to put the glasses, the shirt, the hair back, because that looked like Gal Gadot, Linda Carter, and whatnot. Damn it.
I kind of had the same moment with like the like woman that's with Weasel. It's like, is that Lois Lane? Did they bring? Oh no, okay, it's not Lois Lane, but it really looks like Lois Lane.
Yeah. Speaking of the characters that we're spotting, whatnot, and then in the midst of all this, dude, like, again, this is what I love about this show, is that moments like this, as brutal and bombastic as they get, you're seeing growth, you're seeing connectivity going deeper with these characters. You see that Phosphorus and Bright are acknowledging, wait, are we supposed to be friends now? And he says, I think so, I would think. And the Bright is sticking up for Nina. And Creature of the Black Buffoon, or whatever the gorilla king gorilla called her. And I'm not gonna show it because I don't want to, I don't want people YouTube coming hollering on us, but like she gave him a meal that he wasn't sure he wasn't wanted, and gave Nina some food back and was sticking up for her. And I was so distraught and moved at the same time by this sequence. They're like, oh God, that person just got probably murdered, but it was out of a beautiful moment between monsters. It was. What did you think of this sequence of just the brutality of friendship blossoming in prison?
Yeah, no, like again, like I said at kind of the start, like I think like this is the kind of stuff that's going to really make you really love these characters. Like I think again, this is a type of show where you are going to be more into it the more you like the closer these characters get, the more you learn about them. I said after like Suicide Squad came out, I said I would like a Suicide Squad TV show because I think you have more time to kind of spend with those guys, and this is kind of what this is doing. I think where you have these more like episodic stories, like with these characters, you get to kind of spend more time with them. They get to bond as a team, and again, like I have like a I would love if these episodes were a little bit longer, for we can really like commit to that a little bit more. But like, no, it's really really fun. Again, I'm curious to kind of see with how the episode ended, how they're going to bond as a team there once they're like, I think their moral duality is at stake, where it's like, okay, we're monsters, but what kind of monsters are we in a way? So it's like, that's what I'm going to be curious about. And will they bond over that situation? I think would be cool.
Yeah, and speaking of bonding and monsters, I never, ever thought that a character that I didn't hate, like other people did, I thought I was like, it's cool, unique, something I wouldn't pull from my DC pull list of who's who. But you pick out Weasel and you give him a story. If you're doing something like this, and I just want to give a forewarning to people, because we live in these times when that like, if this episode is pull stuff out of you and whatnot, that's fine. Take your time to watch it, observe it. But
yeah,
it's a sad, tragic story, and yet it's echoing a lot of sentiment. The beauty of art is when you can entertain me, and yet you're telling me something about how you feel about the world or how you feel about yourself. And James was willing to give, of all people, Weasel his story, and yet tell me how does he feel about the world, our world right now, and in this episode. You see innocence, you see connection, you see no prejudice, you see youth and the unknown shaking hands, bonding, and you see a way of engagement and a way of reacting to an event, and the consequences are there. And sadly, this one hit home for me. This one hit home because of recent events, of where we've been these past few years. And before we go dive deeper, and there's some shots I really want to highlight that I've been seeing James highlight a lot. Weasel Man, innocent. What's his name? Joe Doe or John Doe? John Doe is innocent, Darren. What do you think about that?
No, I think that is the most powerful stuff from the episode for sure. And I was very curious going into this. I was like, okay, what does a Weasel episode, like what does that look like? A character that can't really talk, hasn't had much interaction with the main, with the main cast and stuff like that. No, like you said, this was such a heartbreaking, powerful episode. I think it's really funny, like, coming off of the like DCEU, that was kind of dubbed as like it was a very dark and like gritty and whatever. And like when James Gunn came in, everyone's like, oh, now it's gonna be all jokes and silly times and whatever. And then his first projects, he gives us one of the most like darkest things I've ever seen in a superhero project. Like genuinely so dark, so heartbreaking. Something that, like you said, I'd probably give like a warning before watching to people. Be like, yeah, man, this one is going to be tough for you to get through. It's going to be a tough watch. There's narratives like if we want to pull it to the real world, there's a lot of real world, parallels you can read to, where it just, our society and how we shoot first and ask questions later, and, and like, you kind of can somewhat understand, like, there's a giant monster near your children. You can kind of see where they got there. But like when there's a burning child like getting burnt and their main priority is this monster, it's like, well, maybe you should check yourself a little bit. Maybe go help the child that's literally dying in front of you. And that's heartbreaking, and it is. And I think it's like, I think I already mentioned this, but I think there's a narrative about like, what does it mean to be a monster? Like, like who are the real monsters in, like in these stories? Is it these actual monsters, or is it, the people that made them monsters, or, that kind of thing? And again, I think this is what James Gunn does well. Like, I think this show has proven what I love about James Gunn and also what I don't like so much. And I think this is his strength. These really, really strong character moments that just pull your heart out, break it in half, and then shove it back in. And I think this is, again, the most I felt like in this show so far. I think this is the most like emotions I have felt so far.
Yeah. This, Yandu, Nebula in
Rocket,
Volume 2, Rocket in Volume 3, Ratcatcher 2, and Polka Dot Man and Suicide Squad. The scene between when John Economos tells somebody about this guy bullying him about his beard, and Peacemaker, seeing what happened to Christopher Smith and why he is the way he is. It's why I've been marching to the drum of like,
yep.
I'm not gonna put it. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and not even that. But I trust him enough to throw the dice and see if this guy could write this stuff for these characters that nobody knew about, unless you were a super nerd like a lot of us are here talking about this stuff. Then you could trust him with Superman. I think you can trust him with Clark Kent and with Kal-El, I would think.
Yeah, I agree.
And one thing I did want to bring up is that there's these lines of dialogue between Waller and Flag, and specifically when there's promotions and whatnot. Damn it, Raspado. I know I want to run right now and get some Mexican ice cream. But there's been some dialogues and some shots of them focusing on saying, "Yo, this is how I feel about stuff." It's moments like this that I'm like, those are deliberate shots of what you're trying to say. I'm like, and to me, again, you're starting with the DC universe, and yet you're building a world, you're connecting us with the characters, and you're saying something about us and how we've been and how our options are onwards. That I tip my head off to them. Like, I wrote somewhere down that like moments like this is, the past haunts the future. This is the past haunting the future. This is, innocence being butchered every time that a way of engagement is being brought up. And again, I think it's Jim saying that, like, him telling us without him telling us that, like, yo, can we just try at least once a different way to do about this stuff? Almost pleading to the audience watching this. Yeah. Like, whether you're younger or you're older, I'm like, please try to change stuff and just try it for a while. Try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but try something different, because over and over again, this is going to happen. And it's almost him saying he's had enough of this. And I love that. It's why I love the X-Men. It's why I love Star Trek. It's why I love Star Wars. And I told Daren before we started, like, I've been holding on to this for weeks, trying to go like, trying to tell people like, yo, there's some shit to talk about in episode 4. And it's probably why James pulled the Commandos out of why, telling all these monsters their stories and how you find the humanity in these monsters and you find the monsters in all these humans. Yeah. And I love that shit. That shit's my jazz, if you will. But yeah, right now, the Bride, Nina, Phosphorus, and Weasel have been ordered to go back to Pokalastan. I think that's the country's name. Forgive me if I'm butchering that name. Saying, okay, I'm convinced. Take out Lana. Rick Flag has gone AWOL, if you will, and now he's got a best buddy, whether he wanted him or not, to try to prevent his current flame from dying. Where do you think? It's so weird because I know, but like, where do you think this is gonna go? Where do you think this is gonna go, Darren?
You know what? I have no idea. I'm gonna be. I can't see it going anywhere good. Like I feel like it's gonna be an absolute disaster, and I am going to be. I'm curious because like Rick Flag is still in a position of power come Superman, right? He's still part of Waller's, team and stuff like that. So obviously he doesn't fuck up too bad. Like he still has a job after all of this. But yeah, I'm curious because again, it seems like him and Frankenstein are going to go after, the like squad. They're going to try and kill her. I'm curious what's revealed next week about Elena's her name, right?
Alana, yeah.
Alana, yeah. I'm curious because again, like, I think that's my biggest question is like, how does she get to the point where she's killing like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman? Like, where does that lead? I'm curious. Like, I could see a world where Rick Flag is going to have to be the one to ultimately take her down, where he's going to realize, something's up or whatever it may be, whatever that giant mystery is. And I'm curious, because this was episode 4. We have
3.
4 more left? 3?
We got 3 left.
3 left. Okay. Yeah. So what? There's only like an hour left of content over the next couple weeks. So that'll be interesting. I could see it like being kind of like one kind of long story over the course of these next couple weeks to kind of wrap it all up. Now that Frankenstein is a big part of the story, I'm curious like what. Like I'm very excited for an actual proper conversation between Frankenstein and the Bride. The Bride kind of being like our team leader at this point. I'm excited to see that as well because she's been one of the highlights for me so far. I think she's great. But yeah, I don't know. I anything could happen. I don't know. Like I wasn't expecting some of the stuff happen this week to happen, so I'm curious.
Yeah. Yeah, this episode echoed the events of Peacemaker. We got Linda Cardellini as John Doe's lawyer. I should have asked you this before we started, but I'm just curious. When this series started, did you have a favorite character? And has that changed since now?
I really liked G.I. Robot in episode 1 and 2. I thought he was really good. I think it was the funniest character. I wished, I wanted more from him last week because, I really liked his Backlash stuff, but I was like, I want more out of this. I didn't feel like it was nearly enough. I wanted to be more attached to him, and I was like, oh, he's dead? Okay. I'm curious if we bring him back at the end or, towards the end or something. And now though, I think the Bride has, I think she has had some of the most screen time. She's had some of the most do. She's going to be team leader. I think Nina can be that, but I simply still do not know anything about her. And I'm very much craving to see more of that. Foster, same thing. Very funny. Alan Tudyk is a national treasure. He's, gave you a lot of great lines.
Yeah.
But also I haven't seen his Backlash stuff yet. So I'm excited for that all to happen.
Yeah. Nothing to echo because of where we are with these characters is that the Bride has had her origin, Gia has had his origin, Weasel now has his origin. We get a little bit of stuff in that first episode with Flag of why he joined the military, where he stands on it. His point of view stuff is very fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And not what I expected going forward with the character with Senior. But yeah, to me, Flag, the Bride, and G.I. have been my favorites thus far. And Nina is just pure. And I love that she every week she just tries to make sure people are not losing too much of the good in them. And to me, that's touching. That's a very sweet thing to take on. And folks, again, you just look to the stuff in these episodes, and they're subtle or not so subtle references to stuff that isn't too focused on, and yet building out this world. I made a video freaking out over one word in last week's episode when someone said Hub City, and I went, the question, oh my god, the question that's a question reference.
Yeah.
And I am so So pumped. And we'll talk about this later when we talk about Superman down the line. But I am just enthralled to be part of the DCU in a big bad way, and how it's making me want to, like, I'm tracking down old Creature Commando comics. I'm trying to see if they've ever been in any other animation or any other project. And I love when something new gets you the bug bites you to do more research, to dive deep into more into it.
Right.
What's another thing? I wanted to ask you another thing that had to do with Amanda Waller. Do you think she has lost an edge since we first met her all those years back, or do you think she's taking more stuff into account? Because if she's being very this reactive,
Yeah.
does that mean that she's losing grip, or is this her struggle to find to keep that stronghold that she has? What are your thoughts thus far? Because she's very much, like, again, like even in the comics, she's much in the shadows. She's
Right.
pulling the strings and whatnot. She has a stance. She'll go toe to toe with anyone, but I like that her presence is still being felt. What do you think about Waller thus far?
Yeah, no, I definitely felt like this was the most vulnerable we've ever seen Waller, and I honestly personal too. Like, she was making movie references and she was saying stuff like this. I was like, okay, this feels like maybe like a very softer reboot of Waller, just a little bit, like a little slightly different than we saw her in like the DCEU. I definitely think like seeing that very trauma filled, like you're going to see all these very important players, die, and again, your whole life work kind of down the drain is what she was basically seeing. You also have to take into account like what we saw in Peacemaker, like she's in courts and her daughter's kind of like speaking out against her, so that is probably also in her head. And again, I'm going to be like, I know a lot of people said they're not really excited for the like Waller series, and I'm again, like, I don't like love that we're kind of carrying over stories from like the like DCEU, but I am very fascinated to kind of see where her journey there progresses, especially now. Like, I'm wondering how much of this stuff in this show that we're dealing with now, her seeing the end of the world. Again, I don't know how these final 3 episodes kind of round out this whole thing, but how much does that play effect into that series? Like where does that go? And I'd say, yeah, I do. She probably has lost her edge a little bit. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, though. I'm going to be curious again, like trauma and her daughter, and just probably people trying to keep her in check a little bit has like smoothed her out a little bit. So we'll see.
Do you think we're having too many references to the DCU, or is this enough, or is it well balanced? Or, because I'm very intrigued about that, because I get giddy about it, but I'm still focused on this core group, and yet just I'm putting as back notes in my brain. I'm like, okay, we mentioned this person, this person. Cersei got arrested in Metropolis. Cool, that's something to put back in the notes. But I'm wondering if people are finding that balance, or if they feel it's too much or too little.
No, I'm liking it. I think like they've described the show as like a like prelogue, kind of like a appetizer, kind of setting the world. And I think I I like this in my like cinematic universes where it's like it's not too over the head, being like, hey, look, we have this character. Look, we're talking about this character, but the small little tidbits here and there. I think like I don't know how much of those shows you watch, but like the Arrowverse did this stuff all the time, especially since that universe couldn't use these characters. So the most they could do to flesh out their world was to have, hey, that thing says Hal Jordan. Hey, here's Themyscira, but we're not going to see it. Like there's little things like that within that universe where it's like, so I feel like I'm very used to them doing that, and I feel it's refreshing because it's like, no, but we are going to see these things. And I think like having, I think Cersei is a big one where it's like, okay, we're setting up the Amazonians, like we're setting up these things here and here, and being like, okay, like remember these names. It's not like we're setting up something big, but remember this thing, and we're gonna get back to that in a couple of years. Just keep that in the back of your noggin, just to be like associated with these kind of characters and these ideas and stuff. I have no problem with what it's done so far. Again, I've had like nitpicks about like them, with like Suicide Squad and Peacemaker and like referencing those stuff at the start. I was like, okay, I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, but I think it's been good.
What about the soundtrack? You adding anything to your playlist?
Oh man, I am not someone that like recognizes music as much as I wish I could. It's just I think it's like an autism thing. Sometimes I just don't pick it up in my brain. But no, I think they've had definitely some really good music. I love the like I know this doesn't count, but like I love the like main intro theme music that they have. Like
Oh,
it's very like espionage, it's very like James Bondish. It's like okay, I'm really liking this. I love the vibe and the aesthetic and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been good. I think once it's over, I'll have to go and listen to all the songs they've used in the show so far.
Moliendo Café. That's the song for the intro, which I remember hearing that for the first time and be like, "Oh shit, this is good. This is the vibe of the show."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that if they keep this up, the soundtrack to this show will rival his stuff from the movies. Um, I think that the writing for this show, I think comedy has been good. Nothing's
Mm.
felt too off, or nothing that has missed for me. Um, Character work is just as good, if not stronger, in my opinion. Um, I think this is a script that people can look back on and be like, you could do this type of storytelling in the start of a new universe in animation. And another thing that people, I'm gonna talk about it now before we wrap things up. That Bobby Pills, the animation that they've been doing with this show,
Yeah.
and it really hit me a lot when we had centered around the kids and seeing their awe and their innocence, and seeing how even with the side eyes that Weasel has, how he still found connectivity in him. I think he understood what was happening when the fire was on, and yet felt like sad that like he couldn't talk to this person or say anything, but yet was responsive. I
Yeah.
love that about a Weasel, that he was observant and yet was like, okay, I'm gonna jump to that fire and try to help that kid. Um, I don't know if you're a big animation fan or whatnot, Darren, but I've been
Yeah.
loving this, and the best compliment I can give to the people behind this, the animation behind the characters that they give to these characters, that I want the Blu-ray already. 4 episodes in, I already want the Blu-ray for this show. Like
Yeah.
that's how much it's making an impact on me. Do you have any thoughts on the animation? Are you liking it? Is it not your cup of tea?
No, I think it's gorgeous. I actually think it's probably one of the highlights of the whole show. And I like James kind of said that each animated show will have their own kind of style, their own look, and I think that's amazing. But also, I would have been okay if this was like like if you were to choose one style and this if this was it, I'd be like, okay, it looks really really good. I think I really love the like action like set pieces because I know action and like animation stuff sometimes look a little clunky if it's not done, especially some of the cheaper stuff like some of the like animated movies they've done in the past. I was like, okay, all right, but no,
Yeah.
I think it looks incredible. I think it looks really really good. I think like the only like somewhat criticism I would have with the animation, that's not the animation at all, is just like I do think some of the voice acting work sometimes does feel a little flat with certain characters, but I think that's just because it's like not all these actors are voice actors, right? They're actors and they were like, hey, just voice this character. So I assume if they continue to do I don't know again, I don't know if this will be like if they will ever a second season or if this is a one-off or whatever, but I imagine that like they will get better the more that they go on, and I would say that's a thing for like all these actors that end up doing that. And I'm curious where it's like this seems to be a regular thing that the actors that are in live action are going to be in the video games and the movies and the shows and animation, all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm curious if that will be an ongoing theme, or I don't know, it'll be interesting.
It's fascinating you brought that up, because I think people said that they felt that like out of all the characters and the sequences, that you feel that the actors are in the room together. Um, um, is that I'm freaking out. Is that Sam Liu? Wait, is that the director, Sam Liu? Is that one of the directors from the show? Um,
Hello.
if that is, hello,
Hi.
holy shit. Excuse my excuse my language. If that is you, sir, what the fuck is happening? I just lost my train of thought. What the hell? If that is you, sir, welcome to the show. Thank you for what we've been the gift you've been giving us. I think people said that they felt that Edward and Rick were the ones they felt they were in the same room, which makes sense because I heard that like that Grillo was kept laughing his ass off. Oh my gosh, it is. Mr. Liu, thank you so much for choosing us to hunt down. Please, uh, just thank you. I don't know what is happening. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. That's awesome.
It was a fantastic episode today.
That's
Crazy
awesome.
stuff.
Thank you. This is so sweet of you to do this. Wow, that just happened. But yeah, it felt that Grillo and Harbor were in the room together, and I hope so, because again, people don't realize a lot of these people that are recording this stuff separately in different time zones or rooms. That you have to take in that X factor, and sometimes you'll either catch within the room or whatnot. And so I felt that with the Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet scene, if you will. And yeah, even Frankenstein crying. He's laughing and crying at the same time. I remember when that happened with the second episode of him hurting and being so emotional. And again, it's just like, dude, if only we could just sit down with you and be like, yo, when you get friend zone, that's it. Don't push anymore, because if not, you're gonna end up, the cops are gonna call on you, and then you're gonna be on social media, so on and so forth. So I kudos to Bobby Pills and the crew behind it, and also the Kevin Kiner, the music, the moments I can spot the score, especially with Weasels pulling out the kids. I'm not trying to compare it to John Williams and Schindler's List, but that vibe of that theme, similar, not the same, felt with that one on that sequence, if you will. But yeah, this is cool. This is cool. That just happened. Daren, do you have any final thoughts? Do you want to give folks watching the stream now or later about Creature Commandos episode 4?
Yeah, no, I think this was this was the episode that I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm really starting to get into the show. I'm really trying to feel it. Again, it's such a crazy day for DC, and just like this, I don't know, like, again, it feels good to, like, yes, we're here, we've made it. Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely no. And again, like, you can tell, again, like I said at the start, like, you can tell there's so much love and there's so much dedication put into this show, and what seems to be the start of this universe. That's so exciting. I'm excited to see how the final 3 wrap it up. I'm excited to see, what's to come with some of these characters, again, because they've been so rich and they've been so palatable, and I'm excited just to watch more.
Yeah. You've been hearing me subtly in the background, and in private, Dan, like, I now more than ever, if you're gonna care this much about Weasel, about Nina, about Dr. Phosphorus, I am willing to bet in Vegas one day, not too long, in the not too distant future, we're gonna get Animal Man.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna get Tommy Monahan, Hitman. We're gonna get Plastic Man. We're gonna get Dr. Fate in another iteration. We're gonna get all these deep cuts. Vigilante, the Cowboy Vigilante. All this stuff that I grew up with Justice League Unlimited. It feels like this is more than ever. And I'm going to give kudos to the CW, to the Arrowverse, because I think that after the animated series in the 90s and the early 2000s, that was as close as it got.
Yep.
But now with this commitment, with this new regime, with these writers, these directors, and the people behind it, it feels more than ever than, like, you can go back and look at those issues of Who's Who of DC and be like, open up those books. Pick one. What do you want to see? Outside of Batman, outside of Superman, outside of Wonder Woman, what do you want to see? Who do you want to hang out with? And I'm gonna wrap things up now with asking you that one question, Daren. Who's the character you want to see, or a team?
Oh, a team. Oh man, there are so many characters I want to see. There's so many things, and like, just to piggyback on what you were saying, it's like when it was announced that he was going to be running things and all this kind of fun things, I was like, if he can put that amount of love he made to the Guardians, a character that nobody really knew, these characters no one really knew, these lowbrow kind of characters, imagine what he's going to do with Superman. Imagine what he's going to do with Batman, with Wonder Woman, these characters that people already know and already have an attachment to. I'm really excited. I know it's already kind of like softly announced, but like, or like at least rumored along the pipeline or whatever. It's like Teen Titans is something that I am so excited to see what they do with. Like, there's so many characters there that I just cannot wait to see. I'm super excited to see, like we have Supergirl coming against, honestly, Superman. I know that's not like a small potatoes character, but I think like Superman is such an important character to me, and I think he's such an important character like to the world. Like, I think My Adventures and Superman and Lois kind of set the stage for people to be like, yes, this is what Superman can be, and now we're going to get that on such a large scale, on such a giant scale, that I'm so excited. I think, again, there's so many characters I can't wait to see, so many characters that I don't even know exist yet that I'm excited to learn about, like Creature Commandos. I had no idea who those guys were. I'm excited to get Authorities. I don't know who those guys are either. Like, I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to, get into the like nitty gritty of some of these characters. That was some of my, I don't want to say issues, but like, for so long, it's like, I think DC was so safe. It's like, okay, these are the characters that everyone knows Superman, everyone knows Wonder Woman and Batman and Cyborg and Green Lantern. It's like, yeah, but what about Blue Beetle? What about Booster Gold? What about Dr. Fate? Like, those are the guys I'm so excited to see.
Yeah. I echo my friend. I echo his sentiments. It's like anything is possible now, more than ever. Anything is possible, and to reiterate to folks, we don't want everything feeling like Commandos. If we start doing that, that takes away the uniqueness of Commandos. What we want is the approach, the commitment, the blood, sweat, and tears that we're feeling the crew and the cast are bringing to these projects like Commandos. That's what we want. We want that what I don't know how else to say it, but in Spanish, the ganas. We want those ganas, the cojones to embark on stuff like this and give it its own panache, its own style, its own jazz, if you will, to it, and making it its own thing, and be like, oh, by the way, it all exists in this universe. Daren, I'm gonna put this video up later on when we talk about Superman. Which, if you're watching the stream, sit tight. We're gonna talk about Superman later down the line, and right now we'll give you a little brief taste of what we thought about the trailer. But I felt after today, Creature Commandos episode 4, Superman trailer. You know how I felt, Daren? You know how I felt? I felt like this.
Yeah.
Ay, papaya de Celaya. Ay, papantla, tus hijos vuelan. Vámonos, perras.
That's how I feel right now. I'm like, holy shit.
Hell
It's
yeah.
going good. Before we go, Daren, Superman teaser, a little tease of what we're gonna talk about. What do you think?
No, I again, like we were echoing before, today was a very special day. Like, this felt like an event. This felt like what we've been waiting to see. At the years of like feeling like we were moving nowhere at DC, just feeling like, we don't have, a cast, and we don't gotta, this person's not here, and we don't know what we're doing with the movies. It's like, oh my gosh, no, we're here. After almost 2 years, we have that Superman trailer. This episode came out. Like, all my friends are talking about it. There is a hype in the air. We were talking off camera. Like, it felt like an event. Like, there hasn't been a feeling like this since like Avengers Endgame, since like Force Awakens. This feels like this. It feels like the movie of the decade to me, or at least to my interest and what I'm really excited for. This feels like this like Avengers level hype that I have not felt in a very long time, and I cannot wait to talk about it more and get more in details to this whole thing.
Yeah. I think Samuel got kicked out of got kicked out of that video I posted. That I'm using that now. Whenever something like nerdy that I'm like digging, that's my vibe. That's my jam. I'm glad you dug that one, Mr. Liu. Superman teaser. this feels so egoistic, but I'm gonna do it anyway. They're like, I just go watch my reaction, y'all. Go watch my reaction. There's something about bringing someone in who likes Superman but is not a big fan, and yet you put a big ass grin on my face. And for the past few hours, I've just been smiling. Like my jaw hurts right now because I just been smiling of the vibe to what we've been getting with these projects, if you will. But yeah, folks, that it's gonna wrap our Creature Commandos chat, if you will, episode 1, talking about the first series into the DC universe. Amigo, thank you so much for taking the time to geek out with me. Plug yourself, please. Tell people. Daren has his own podcast. I want to tell him, Daren. Tell him, Daren.
No, thank you. I run the Pipeline podcast every either Thursday or Friday. We talk about Superman tomorrow. Tomorrow we're also doing like favorite Christmas movies. It's that time of year. I want to get Roden on at some point because it's been way too long of talking around the corners, just talking place to place. But again, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. I love going on other people's channels. And again, I will associate, this stream and us talking to the Superman trailer probably forever now, because it's going to be all one day. It's going to be all one day. I watched the trailer, I worked, and then I came over here and talked with you. So thank you for having me.
This is much like our friends shows, Council of Creators and Part Nation. This feels like the closest of like we get out of high school and there's an in and out away from the high school and there's a comic book shop. And so we're going to go get food and then we're going to hit the comic shop and we're going to spend the whole time there until they say, we're closing, get out, we want to go home. It feels like that. Yes, folks, go subscribe to Daren's channel. Go check out his podcast. To tell you that I've met few people who have been following the Arrowverse and what has been coming out of DC for the past more than Daren is an understatement. Go check him out and subscribe to the channel. If you like us geeking out, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I want to give a special thank you to Sam Liu, who took the time out of, I'm assuming, his busy schedule with working to just come in and geek out with some nerds about stuff he's been working on. Senor, your work is not going unnoticed. Not just yours, the crew, yes, James' leadership, Bobby Pills and whatnot, but everybody, if you work even an ounce of this show, your work is not going unnoticed.
Yeah.
And although we have different styles, different points of views and whatnot, we can't deny that this is a new vibe, a new era. There's something in the air with DC, and it's not to be ignored, and it's not to take lightly. And I appreciate that from everybody who's taking the time to watch the stream and hang out with us. If you want to see reactions to Creature Commandos, it's in the channel. Go look at me making weird faces and being appalled, and yet cheering for violence and crying over the most absurd characters that you could think of. It's all in the channel. I want to hit 1,000 subs before Christmas. It's a long game, but I'm not. If I'm going down, I'm not going down without a fight. So I'll hang out with us. There's a lot more to cover. And again, folks, stay tuned. We're only taking a break. I'm gonna reboot right now another stream to talk about Superman. I want to dedicate one stream to Creature Commandos because the show's earned it. And I want to just geek out with them. And then we're going to talk about Superman. After that, we could talk about all you want. You want to talk about the flying, the cape, Lord, Metamorpho. We'll hang out with us. Stay tuned. We won't be going that far. And until then, take care. Let's celebrate this day as DC fans. And I'm going to end it with this. In the words of the quote, The Bride of Frankenstein.
To a new world of gods and monsters.
Take care, everybody. Adios. Yeah.